Hi everyone, we're happy to be back with the latest episode of ASEAN News. Still with me, Vanessa. ASEAN foreign ministers held virtual meeting with China, Japan, South Korea counterparts.
The foreign ministers of China, Japan and South Korea held a video conference with ASEAN member nation foreign ministers during the 53rd ASEAN Foreign Ministers Summit. During a separate session with Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi earlier in the day, ASEAN's foreign ministers discussed with him about the advancements of a long-delayed Code of Maritime Conduct and the development and access to COVID-19 vaccine. The 10 ASEAN members are Brunei, Cambodia, Indonesia, Laos, Malaysia, Myanmar, Philippines, Singapore, Thailand, and Vietnam.
Australian Foreign Minister encourages ASEAN to play a central role in the region.
Australia's Foreign Minister Marise Payne held a video conference with her ASEAN counterparts, the sidelines of the 53rd ASEAN Foreign Ministers meeting hosted by Vietnam.
As ASEAN's longest-standing dialogue partner, it is natural for Australia that ASEAN should play such a central role in responding to the shared challenges of our times, including COVID-19. Australia's vision for the Indo-Pacific has ASEAN at its absolute centre. The pandemic has only reinforced this. We share with ASEAN a commitment to ensuring a peaceful and prosperous Indo-Pacific region, free from coercion and where sovereignty, international law, and the rights of all states are respected and upheld.
During the summit, ASEAN ministers are expected to seek collaboration to fight global threats and to try to de-escalate a tit-for-tat US-China rivalry as the world's two biggest economies vie for influence. South Korea and India are among other countries remotely joining an event hosted by Vietnam that will include a 27-nation security forum. The 10 ASEAN members are Brunei, Cambodia, Indonesia, Laos, Malaysia, Myanmar, Philippines, Singapore, Thailand, and Vietnam.
Related to the coronavirus, can Krim Key South Korean holiday despite fewer cases?
South Korea reports its lowest tally of new coronavirus infections, but officials are weighing whether to extend social distancing curbs ahead one of the country's biggest holidays. The Korea Centers for Disease Control and Prevention says daily cases have dropped steadily since the late August peak of more than 400, and 119 more cases took the national tally to more than 20,000 with more than 300 deaths. Authorities stopped short of widespread lockdown in a bid to avert economic damage, but unprecedented measures such as curbs on coffee shops and eateries and mandatory masks in public have been extended in the Seoul area. Measures considered are bans on gathering of more than 50 people indoors and 100 outdoors, and on audiences at sports games, as well as requests for people to work staggered hours or from home. Chuseok is one of South Korea's biggest holidays, but officials urge against a traditional visit to meet relatives or gather at the family graves.
Algae Electronics unveils battery-powered air purifying mask to fight COVID.
It has the H13 high-efficiency particulate air filter, which is also used on home air purifiers. The two filters on the mask can filter bad pollutants in incoming air. It also helps you breathe comfortably as the fan speed is set based on your breathing capacity by the algorithm of an ultra-thin fan motor and a pressure-sensing breathing sensor.
Aung San Suu Kyi vows victory in election as campaign starts amid virus surge.
Myanmar leader Aung San Suu Kyi launched her re-election bid ahead of poll sets, vowing victory a scaled-down ceremony in the capital after her original plans are scuppered by a surge in the coronavirus cases. Suu Kyi, who rules as state councillor, have planned to launch her campaign in the commercial capital of Yangon, but cancelled the trip on advice of the health ministry. Wearing a red mask decorated with a peacock, the emblem of the NLD, and a plastic face shield, she attended a flag-raising ceremony to signal the start of the campaign rally for her party and thanked supporters for flying the party's red flag at their homes across the country. I hear our supporters want to join us for the campaign rally. We are very thankful for this. The support is very valuable for us. But the more valuable thing than their support is health and security. I want to request our supporters not to campaign in the Kwahamu township due to the restriction of social distancing and crowd gathering during the COVID-19 pandemic. In an early video message to supporters, Suu Kyi asked them to follow the COVID-19 safety protocols. After the country without the local transmissions, many restrictions had been relaxed when cases are detected in the western state of Rakhine. The number of cases has tripled since, more than 1,500 and 8 deaths. The health ministry reported 93 new cases.
New COVID-19 helmet lets frontline workers snack and scratch in safety.
3 Vietnamese school students are designing a helmet that allows frontline health workers scratch their nose without exposing themselves to the risk of the coronavirus infections. The pandemic has thrown a spotlight on the trade-off at times between the comfort and safety of protective personal equipment, especially for workers who are required to suit up in such outfits for hours on end. To address this problem, a group of students are set a challenge to design a helmet connected to a respirator that not only protects but allows frontline workers to remain productive for longer. The group came up with the film of portmanteau of Vietnam and helmet. It has a glove box access so a wearer can fit their hand inside and, for example, wipe sweat off their face or clean a visor while keeping the helmet sealed.
A big difference of this helmet is the glove box right here. You can use to interact with your face safely. For example, Duke can adjust his glass from inside the helmet. We also put a food tray inside, which is also another thing that is different because coupling with the glove. You can have an amount of food that is enough to replenish the energy of the people who are working at the front line.
Đáp ứng được nhu cầu tiếp nạp năng lượng của người trên tuyến đầu ấy.
The futuristic-looking helmet also has an internal compartment that can hold a snack for a frontline worker and is attached by a tube to a power air purifying respirator to exclude contaminated air. The difference in this helmet compared to the face masks is that it prevents the virus from infecting the body by protecting the person who is wearing it. It's not the person who wears it protect the community from himself like a face mask. So when the people of the high-risk group wear this helmet, they will feel safe and intact. They are really being safe. While such respirators are considered significantly safer than the standard masks, they can be far more uncomfortable than other forms of PPE. Vinsmart, a unit of Vietnam's largest conglomerate, Vingroup, has been producing ventilators, are signed an agreement to help the students mass produce their final version of the helmet.
Peru began trials for Chinese coronavirus vaccine.
Researchers say Peru stepped up testing a coronavirus vaccine from China's Sinopharm, which helped the country gain faster access to inoculations once the vaccines are approved. It's a group of 20 people and we are carrying out all steps concerning procedures of informed consent, a medical evaluation, a laboratory analysis and the vaccine. There will be a period under which the volunteers will rest so as to observe any side effects, mainly allergies. And by now they should have probably received their first vaccine and there hasn't been any side effects, no negative effects. Reuters data indicates that the highest number of the COVID-19 deaths, therefore Sinopharm recruit up to 60,000 volunteers in Peru.
You don't know if you're going to get the vaccine or a placebo, but that is the idea so that there can be a comparison.
A team of Chinese scientists is in the Andean nation to work with the local researchers at Lima Cayetano Heredia University. Sinopharm also do clinical coronavirus vaccine trials elsewhere in Latin America, including in Argentina. President says an emergency decree that establishes extraordinary measures to facilitate and guarantee the acquisition. An emergency decree that establishes extraordinary measures to facilitate and guarantee the acquisition, conservation and distribution of the vaccines against COVID-19 that has been approved today by the Council of the Ministers.
Hoy hemos aprobado en Consejo de Ministros.
Peru, a country of nearly 33 million people and the world's number 2 copper producer, particularly hard hit by the pandemic, both in terms of infections and economic impact. Peru recorded nearly 700,000 cases of the coronavirus, the fifth highest caseload in the world, and more than 30,000 deaths. Authority says other Chinese laboratories that will be conducting trials in the region include Sinovac Biotech, will work in Brazil, Chile, Valvax Biotechnology called Limited, CanSino Biologics Incorporation, which will test in Mexico.
Mike Pompeo reaffirms pledge to help ASEAN countries mitigate pandemic impact.
Secretary of State Mike Pompeo repledged United States support for the 10-nation Association of Southeast Asian Nations, ASEAN, in their efforts to contain the coronavirus and alleviate its impact on their economies.
The United States has also devoted new resources to help ASEAN countries face the current pandemic, as well as future ones. As Foreign Minister of Singapore encouraged last night, the ASEAN Public Health Emergency Coordination System, through $1.5 million in funding from the State Department, will increase ASEAN's ability to respond as a region to emerging public health crises, and frankly, to help prevent the next pandemic, too. We've created a new Health Futures alumni network to share best practices in fighting and dealing with COVID.
Southeast Asian foreign ministers kick off a series of regional summits, expect to see collaboration to fight the global threats, and try to de-escalate a tit-for-tat US and China rivalry and the world's two biggest economies vie for influence. Russia, Japan, Australia, South Korea, and India are among other countries remotely joining an event hosted by Vietnam that will include a 27th Security Forum as concerns grows about rhetoric, accidental conflict, and about other countries being caught up in the fray. Pompeo joined several ASEAN countries and many other partners in raising concerns about China's aggressive actions in the South China Sea. The U.S. State Department spokeswoman Morgan Ortagus says Pompeo and several countries also voiced concern about China's imposition of a new national security law on Hong Kong, the arrest of pro-democracy students, postponement of the territory's elections, and disqualification of pro-democracy electoral candidates. The 10 ASEAN members are Brunei, Cambodia, Indonesia, Laos, Malaysia, Myanmar, Philippines, Singapore, Thailand, and Vietnam.
The new COVID-19 cases rise after we opened the borders in Bali, Indonesia.
Official data show Bali posted record high numbers of cases for 5 days straight, peaking at 196 cases. Public health experts worry that in addition to the movement of people, there might be a more contagious strain of the virus, after Bali reopened its border for domestic tourism.
There are regulations set by the tourism operators and mall operators. I feel very safe visiting the tourist attractions.
Professor Gusti Mahardika, a virologist from Udayana University in Denpasar, urges the government to consider an immediate lockdown to stop tourists flying in from worst-hit regions. The jump in cases are due to a combination of factors, including the spread of a more infectious mutations of the coronavirus, known as D614G, and the reopening the island for domestic tourists. The virus had undergone some changes and the new strain is more contagious. The second reason is that the local resident thought the social restrictions rules had eased following the reopening of Bali to domestic tourists, and that's why they flocked to tourist attractions in groups and caused traffic congestions in some areas. He adds the ongoing government's efforts to carry out large-scale social restrictions in specific regions might not be effective to contain the spread of the virus. The government have planned to reopen Bali for international tourists, but scrapped the plan as cases have continued to rise across the country. Tourists traveling to Bali is not the main reason contributing to coronavirus infections, because only a few thousand travel here daily. Locals' activities are the main reason. Shop owner Kamil is forced to make a living selling packed rice after his souvenir shop located by Bali's Kuta Beach was forced to close. I'm happier compared to just sleeping at home, where I feel hopeless. Although there's no customer now, I can stay hopeful. From the moment the shop opens in the morning until it's closed in the evening, maybe there will be customers. Daily cases in Bali have tripled, with the total number of cases on the resort island at more than 6,200.
Thailand Airways opened restaurant for customers craving in-flight meals.
The national carrier, which for months has grounded most of its plane due to the travel restrictions caused by the COVID-19 pandemic, is transformed the cafeteria of its Bangkok headquarters into an aviation restaurant, open to the public to satisfy the cravings for airline food. Local customers of Thailand's Airways flocked to the airline's new lounge restaurant to remind themselves of the experience of in-flight dining. Also impressed for the moment I stepped on the ramp because I was greeted by the captain and the cabin crew at the entrance. The feeling is the same with boarding on actual flight. The Southeast Asian countries suspend commercial flights to try to prevent coronavirus infections, but diners can still meet the cabin crew, who greet them in full uniform as they enter the restaurant decorated with airplane parts seats to lend it an authentic aircraft feel.
Today we open our Thai Airways restaurant. Let everybody cannot fly, but you can eat in terms of the high class, world class food and service. That is this our dream.
The captain says he is very happy, and he also believes that the cabin crew love the passengers. I'm so happy. I believe the cabin crew love passengers, and after we couldn't fly for 3 or 4 months, we missed our uniform and atmosphere a lot. So for us to be here today is such an extraordinary moment. The restaurant, which will serve about 2,000 meals per day, is a way for the company to recoup some lost revenue during the coronavirus pandemic, and there are plans to turn other Thailand Airways offices into similar dining experiences. Each decoration has a QR code attached to it for visitors to look up information on the parts. Chefs and the cabin crew from the airline, which filed for bankruptcy protection, appear in good spirits. Japanese chef Jun Uenishi says the experiences are different because it is his first time interacting with customers.
And that's all for today's news. Have a nice day. We'll see you again.